Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Ipswich Central Redevelopment Committee number 10 for 2021, this 4th day of November 2021. I note that all councillors are in attendance. No apologies. Does anybody have any declarations of interest on matters on the agenda today? No? Nil business outstanding, so we might move to the first item on the agenda, which is the confirmation of minutes of the Ipswich Central Redevelopment Committee number 9, dated 7th of October 2021. I will move that. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Mayor Harding. Would anyone like to discuss the previous minutes? No? We'll put that matter to the vote. Those in favour? Noting that's unanimous and carried. Now move on to item number 2 on the agenda, which is an officer's report, Ipswich Central Revitalisation Positioning Framework and Place Plans. It's a report concerning the approval and adoption of the positioning framework, including the priority projects and place plans for Ipswich Central Revitalisation project. Could I call the relevant council officer?
Erin Marchant, Project Manager for Ipswich Central.
Thank you, Ms Marchant. I'm delighted that this piece of work has been finalised and come together for the committee today, because it speaks to a very important remit of this council, which is stakeholder and community consultation. So could you just highlight the consultation that's occurred in pulling this work together?
Sure. So this last piece of work that we've done, we have done several engagements on this project. The first started in 2019 when we did some workshops, 2 with the community and 1 internally. In early 2020 we did some additional research which supported the work that had come out of the workshops, working with Neighbourlytics to get some additional data. And social data in particular was something that we were quite keen in finding out more about. Unfortunately, COVID had a little delay with the project, but towards the end of last year, we did some more works with the Economy ID team and getting some statistical data on to support the Ipswich Central Revitalisation. What we have done this year is worked with key stakeholders. So earlier in the year, we did one-on-one meetings with 40 key stakeholders. These included traders, investors, business owners, building owners, internal community members, and internal and external stakeholders as well. From those meetings, we then went out to community consultation. With the consultation, we did 6 pop-up events. We did, and they were all located around Ipswich Central, so face-to-face engagement. We did those at the Art Gallery, North Ipswich Rail Museum. We did it at the Jets, the Nature Centre, the Ipswich Showground Market, and down at Coles downtown. From that engagement, we took all the ideas that had come to us from the community, and we were able to put those together into the place plans. So what you see today in the place plan document is all ideas that have come directly from the community, and we've just consolidated them into actionable items. With the last piece of engagement we've done on the positioning framework, that went out to the Ipswich Central database and all the people that we contacted through email originally. So we're closing the loop on the engagement. This was quite an extensive piece of engagement, but due to all the work that we'd done on the front end, we had 80% of people come back and say that we had got the positioning framework correct. So the 4 that didn't, were very specific with their feedback. We had a bit more feedback around incorporating and referencing iFuture. We also had really specific feedback on some infrastructure projects, including the Norman Street Bridge and the I2S corridor, and the First Nations, and also about livability. So we took on board that feedback and we've adapted that incorporated that into the positioning framework and also into the place plans.
And if you were to call out a couple of plans that, you know, could come to fruition quite quickly under the quick delivery criteria, what would they be?
So we are working with the Ipswich Central Partnerships Group. So they're a group of people who are made up of business and community, and they have come together and prioritised 2 actions. Their first action is they would really like to do some more around top of town and getting people involved in tours, and also being ambassadors for the city. So really being that point of contact if somebody's walking around the streets and they're looking a little bit lost, to be able to go up and speak to them. So really want to be on the ground and talking to the community and talking to people who are visiting Ipswich for the first time. So that's one of their ideas. And then to be able to create more published brochures about here's a heritage tour, or if you're interested in street art, here's a street art tour. So they really want to develop that a lot more. And so we're getting them to work with our tourism team and getting them to sort of help position some of those documents. The second activity that is probably going to come to fruition will be the Working Bee on Bell Street. This is something that has been strongly identified by the community as an area in need, and they really want to basically get hands-on, help remove some graffiti, tidy up the street, pick up the rubbish, and really just make it a bit of a brighter and better place for people to be.
Fantastic, thank you. Any other questions for Ms Marchand? No? Thank you. Could I ask for somebody to move this report, please? Thank you, Councillor Jonik, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Kunzelman. I'll now open up for discussion. Would anyone like to make any comments? No? I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank the Ipswich Central Partnerships Group. They are a large group of local residents that have lived in our beautiful city, a lot of them for a very long time. They're a very passionate group, and I thank them for their efforts. They've been consistently showing up, putting in the hard work after hours to help shape this piece of work, and so passionate are they that yes, we might end up with our own little group of equivalent to the Brisbane greeters, the Ipswich greeters. So I look forward to that. Also just like to comment that, you know, outside of these formal groups and outside of the advocacy by us as elected reps and the work done by council officers, we have our community advocates underway. I note that there is an online petition circulating, a Change.org petition to transform Bell Street, and this is by a very separate group of residents. So I love that everyone's joining us on the journey to revitalising our CBD. Okay, if there's nothing more, we'll put the matter... Oh, thank you,
if I may,
Mayor Harding.
Councillor, I hope you don't mind me saying that I know that behind the scenes, obviously having seen these documents for some time, the work that you've been, and your leadership, I know that you've been very, very hands-on and providing that strategic direction and also ensuring that residents are heard. And so I can see that you're shaping there. So thank you very much for providing that leadership for a vital part of our city.
Thank you, Mayor. But, you know, I guess really harks back to my comment that we have so many passionate residents here dragging the city forward, so it makes it very easy when everyone's on board. But thank you. We'll now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? It's unanimous and carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to item number 3, which is the Nicholas Street Precinct Communications Engagement and Events Report from October 2021, and the report concerns the comms engagement and events activity undertaken in the Nicholas Street Precinct during October. Would anyone like to speak to the relevant council officer? No? Okay, could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Kunzelman, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Milligan. I will now open up for discussion. Does anyone have any comments? Thank you, Mayor.
I'm just saying it's lovely to see the Toowoomba Place and the CBD, the Nicholas Street Precinct, being used in so many different ways. The report does talk about the Halloween night and thankfully the rain held off for movie night, and we had that day for Daniel Walk. It's just so great to see it being used in so many ways by our community.
Yeah, and I concur, Mayor, and it's lovely to see on social media the sharing of photographs of the building here at 1 Nicholas Street Precinct lit up in the colours of the respective charities. So for Daniel, obviously, it was red, and that is really well received by the community. So I'm really, really excited by that.
We have the Ipswich Plant and Garden Expo this weekend.
We do.
Yes.
We do, and hopefully we'll be sharing details of Christmas in Nicholas Street soon as well. Thank you, Councillor Kunzelman.
Before Christmas, we'll be having the building lit up orange for Zonta's 16 days of activism against domestic violence.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
We had it lit up pink for Go Pink with October.
We did.
For breast cancer awareness.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we'll put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Noting that's unanimous and carried. Moving on to the fourth item on the agenda, which is the Nicholas Street Precinct Retail Sub-Project Steering Committee report for October 2021. And that is the status of the leasing program and associated developments with the retail component of the Nicholas Street Precinct development. Could I ask the relevant council officer to come forward, please? Could you please state your name and title?
I'm James Hepburn. I'm Chair of the Retail Sub-Project Steering Committee.
Thank you, Mr Hepburn. As has been published by council and the media, we've got our first tenant locked away and an opening date fast approaching. Could you please just give us a brief update on the status of the opening of that particular shop, if they're on track, and what other offerings are getting close, where you are able to speak to those details?
Yes, of course. We have that dumpling place, as we've advertised, are in fitting out at the moment. As a landlord, we've only just finished what we call the Cat 1 works, which is essentially getting the shell ready for them to move into that, and the ability for them to hook into the utilities and air conditioning and that like. They really start in earnest early next week. They've been in, surveyed, and they're just getting ready now to start the actual fit-out works. So we had hoped for them to open some point in the middle of November. I suspect now it's going to be later in November.
Late November? Okay. And that dumpling has a presence in Brisbane, is that right? But they're changing their name?
They do. They've got a presence in the West End and also on, I forget the name of the road, in the Lend-Lease development near the Ecker.
Okay, great.
It's probably also worth noting, actually, that one of our other, not our tenant, but there's the Rusty Nail, which is a tapas bar and some craft beer within one of the third-party landlords on Nicholas Street, is also looking to open towards the back end of November. So there could be 2 new openings within the precinct, which would be quite exciting.
Fantastic, ahead of Christmas. What can you tell us about the cinema, Mr Hepburn?
It's difficult to talk about because of the procurement process.
Of course.
But what I can say is it's remained unchanged from last month. The procurement process continues through request for information process. This has taken longer than we anticipated. I think that's particularly through the 2 routes that we looked at, which is the lease and the management agreement. We're using this process to really lock down as much detail as possible before moving to a preferred operator and before then looking to close down the legals. So currently the cards are in our hand and we're using this process to get the best possible deal. Timing on that, it's very difficult to say, and we have an RFI closing tomorrow, and we're not sure whether we'll need another one after that or we'll be able to deal with it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr Hepburn? No? I do have a request for a report, wondering if I should be raising at this stage. I'm receiving a lot of requests and comments and feedback from residents and local business owners in relation to a number of state-owned assets. So the overpass to nowhere across Bell Street, the Queensland Rail, Ipswich train station, and how we can spruce up those buildings. Obviously, we don't own those assets, but I do know that there's a lot of work underway behind the scenes. Council officers have been dealing with the relevant state departments. Councillor Fechner and I and the Mayor, we've been chatting with local state MPs. And obviously we have a local group doing their Change.org online petition. I'd like a report, if I can, please, just bringing together the work that's been undertaken in trying to get some visual improvements to those state-owned assets. I think it's important for the community to understand that we are working hard behind the scenes as we spend and invest the city's money in the Nicholas Street precinct. It would be nice to see some aesthetic improvements, for instance, to the Ipswich train station. So, I'd love a report that summarises the work undertaken so far and identify opportunities where we could push a bit harder for some outcomes.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. I think as well as the development, we're already in process of looking at extension and improvement to the crossing from Metro B to the station across Bell Street, and there's already some work going on with regards to upgrading the lighting and bringing that back into our control.
Yeah, okay.
And we can certainly add to that where
That
our
would be great. So
negotiations and
to
discussions
next
are gone.
committee, to next committee, or is that going to be a little too tight leading into Christmas?
Greg's given me an assured nod, so I think that'll be fine.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Hepburn. Thank you.
Chair, would you like it to be an additional recommendation, or you can do that with the add a resolution, add a
Okay,
recommendation?
so the initial recommendation will become A, and then we will include B, that it will be a report from the sub-project steering committee, will it? Or will it just be from the precinct team?
Thinking there'd be two ways you could handle it. You could call for a separate report to come forward to this committee in December.
Yep.
Addressing the matters that you can't
Okay.
be covered, or you could ask that the regular report for the next committee meeting include...
Yeah, no, I would like a separate report, so that the Retail Sub-Project Steering Committee provide a report to the next committee in December, outlining advocacy work and discussions with the state government regarding state-owned assets within the Ipswich Central Precinct. And the opportunities to improve those assets visually. Okay, so assets within the Ipswich Central precincts. Sorry, in the third sentence, state-owned assets within the Ipswich Central precincts. And opportunities to improve those assets visually. Improve those assets aesthetically, including removal where practical, obviously referring to the overpass. So assets aesthetically. Including removal where appropriate. Thank you. Okay, does the mover, thank you, councillor Kunzelman, yeah, and the seconder agree with that? That was,
Chair, is precinct plural or singular?
singular, Ipswich Central Precinct.
Just take the S off the end. Okay. And capitalise the P.
Yeah, that's okay. Councillor Kunzelman, I think. And seconder, councillor Milligan, you happy with that? Okay, so any further discussion or recommendations? No, we'll put that matter to the vote then. All those in favour? Noting that's unanimous and carried. We have no notices of motion or matters arising on the agenda today. So that brings the Ipswich Central Redevelopment Committee to a close at 12:09. Thank you.